I'm a 24-year-old soldier, and after what happened to me, I have an uncontrollable fear of sirens. Every Saturday night at camp, I can hear screams that only I can hear. I wake up my friends sometimes just to see their reactions and maybe figure out a solution about it. Maybe check it out or something, but they never hear a thing. Every time I hear those screams, they're either a man, woman, or child scream, but there's something very peculiar about them. It has a quite noticeable static sound every time someone screams, or should I say, whenever a scream plays. It sounds like it's coming out of a siren, and it wakes me up every night. I've learned to ignore it, and I've thought it's probably just me imagining things, since I didn't like sirens that much as a kid either. Too loud to be enjoyable. It wakes me up every single night, and it sounds so real. So I thought I should ask the headmaster if our sirens accidentally play those weird sounds at night. The next morning I talked to him about it, and he said it may have been an error, but even if it was, the sirens were turned off at night. Only the alarm ones were on. I tried to get him to look deeper into this thing because I doubted that it was just an error, and I was pretty sure it was coming from a siren. But he said he thinks I'm talking nonsense and sent me to do some exercises with the other soldiers. He might have been right. I maybe was just a bit paranoid. This night the sounds weren't that loud. It sounded as if it was playing from somewhere within the forest. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to check it out. I grabbed a flashlight, a shotgun, and snuck out of camp to go in the forest and investigate. Now, I know I may sound like a dumbass for doing this, going out of camp and all to check it out, but the screams were making my sanity fall apart. I kept walking and walking. Nothing was found, but I could hear the sounds getting louder. I'm sure I was approaching it. I ended up in a straight dirt road, and then I saw something. It was too dark to see, but I could see something really freaky in the dark. It was in the middle of the road, so I pointed my flashlight at it. And there it was. A slim creature that was about as tall as a tree, having long arms that could reach its toes, and for a head, 2 sirens connected into one tube. It looked very skinny, as if it was only bone, but you could clearly see flesh on it, and it had metallic wires going through its body. I was terrified, but without any second thoughts, I immediately held my gun and shot it. It didn't die. The bullet marks were clear and I could see some blood running down, but instead of showing signs of pain, it started walking towards me. Without any second thoughts, I ran in the opposite direction from where I was facing. The siren mimicked my scream and played it again. The static sound always gave me a fucked up feeling in my stomach, but from up close it was much more terrifying. It then started to play some other weird sounds coming from its sirens, such as tornado warnings, amber alerts, and announcements about murderers and criminal escapes. I can run really fast, but even though it was walking, it wasn't that far away from me. Let's just say I was far enough for it to not catch me. I grabbed my gun again, stopped, and shot a siren. The sounds it was playing were glitching out. I managed to outrun it, but it started approaching me quickly. I was far enough away, but I could still see it in the dark. I was running for about half an hour, felt more like an eternity. Our distance didn't even change by a centimeter. It felt like I was running on an infinite road. Luckily, I could see a car. I thought someone was there. Whoever it was, I needed them to get me away from that thing. But to my disappointment, it was locked. Big mistake stopping. The monster was now a bit closer and the road got really muddy, so it slowed me down. I got off the road and went into the forest. It didn't come in. I could see it facing at me, but it stopped moving. I saw my camp. I was relieved but still scared to stop and relax. I asked the guards to let me in, and since they know me, they obviously opened the door. They asked me what I was doing outside this late, and how did I get out. I apologized and asked them to keep it a secret, but I later explained to them what I saw and how I left. They probably felt sorry for me and thought I was being paranoid, so they told me to get some rest. I swore to them that I didn't lie for what I had seen. They still didn't believe me. I shrugged it off and went back to bed. That night I was so terrified. It was the scariest experience I've ever had. Around 5 to 6 a.m. I woke up to the sound of screams and the smell of smoke. I went outside to see what woke me up. Everything was on fire. Towers were torn apart and I could see piles of dead bodies. The thing that had caught my attention the most was something I had seen hours ago. That tall, skinny, siren-headed monster. It was responsible for everything. Soldiers begged me to help them, but I couldn't do anything about it. They were torn in half. The monster saw me and reached out to grab me. It missed. The whole camp was on fire. I began to suspect I was in hell. I ran and ran. It chased me, but I never stopped running. After running for so long, I came to the end of a cliff, and now that there was light, I saw the monster more clearly, and now it was more terrifying than ever. It stopped walking. I could hear a crispy yet soothing voice come out of the siren. "Do you like heights, Mark?" How could this monster know my name? This had to be a never-ending nightmare, but it was my reality. "Come to me." I begged the monster not to kill me. I cried and asked it to leave me. To my surprise, it left. I'm not sure if it regretted its decision or just wanted to get revenge later. As I watched it turn around and disappear into the woods, I felt relieved that I had escaped out of the situation. I went back to camp just to see the sight of dead bodies and broken buildings, but I had to call someone or I wasn't leaving this place. I had my phone on me, so I called 911 and told them to come to the camp's address. When they arrived, they told me to explain what happened and how I survived it. I described everything by detail, but they thought I was joking and told me to act serious. I told them unfortunately I was, and they finally took it seriously. Sort of. They said they'd investigate it. I packed my stuff and they brought me back to my city. I went back home and was happy to see my wife and kids. They were surprised I came so early. I was supposed to come home 5 months later. I explained to my wife what happened and she just wouldn't believe me. She said I probably needed some rest to get all this shit out of my imagination. All of this makes me curious. Am I living in a nightmare? Was I actually paranoid? Whatever it was, it's done with. For now. I pushed the curtains aside and opened the window to get some fresh air. I looked outside and it felt great to be home. But what I saw in the distance made me feel shocked. I saw the thing again, and it was on top of a building really far away. I tried to ignore it and just get some sleep. I probably needed to book a therapy session.